You're live, folks.
Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's One Film Festival with our film, the film Heavy Load, Paul from Heavy Load, and Jerry, and Rachel from GigBuddies. We've got some questions for you today. So, yes, I'll go straight in for the questions for Heavy Load. First question to Paul. How did Heavy Load begin?
Well, there's an organisation in Sussex called Southdown Housing, and they support people with learning disabilities. And it was back in the 90s. There's a Jimmy, who was the guitarist, his support worker was saying to him, is there anything you'd like to do? He used to like standing in his bedroom playing guitar. Said, is there anything you'd like to do with your guitar? And he said, I'd like to be in a band. So they advertised around, and a few of us said, that sounds like a great idea. And Heavy Load formed. So 3 of the members were being supported by Southdown, and me and Mick worked for Southdown.
Yeah. Hi, you okay, guys? How are you? You're all right.
Oh yeah, Tom.
This is another question. I think the first lot of questions are put off for the Heavy Load to 4 points out, and then later on we want to GigBuddies questions. So this next question, and this can be for either Paul or for Jerry. And my first question for you is: has Heavy Load toured around a lot of venues across the UK and abroad?
Yeah, we started off playing sort of in day centres and stuff in Brighton, and then started to venture. We played in Wales, in Cardiff. We've played in Scotland. We played in New York, Glastonbury, and then we also played in Berlin, and then had this idea that it'd be a really good idea. We knew some people in Denmark, so we thought it'd be a great idea to go on a road trip to Copenhagen to play a squat with a bunch of anarchists. And we played at a couple of festivals as well in Germany and another place in Denmark at the same time. So yeah, we traveled around quite a bit in our old van.
So you get about a bit, don't you? Lovely.
Yeah.
And that's on your little list of venues in the answer there, you said about Glastonbury as well, didn't you? So I expect that's quite a spectacular one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was like a big child because it was, it's probably everybody's dream if they play an instrument to stand on stage and say hello Glastonbury, and I certainly didn't miss that opportunity, just for my own personal enjoyment, really. But it was wild playing Glastonbury, really wild.
Brilliant.
My next question is to Jeremy or Paul. Can you tell us about the Stay Up Later campaign?
Best for Paul on that one, I reckon. I could talk about the origins of it.
Yeah, talk about the origins of it, Jerry. Yeah.
So I think there was a point in the film where, and I think this had happened to the band before, hadn't it? That audiences would leave in the middle of a set. They would leave like at 8:30 at night if the band had started playing at 8, or something like that. And it wasn't because they hated the band; it was because the shifts were changing in the accommodation where many of them lived. And I think out of that, and out of particularly, I guess it was out of Michael's, the drummer's anger at that Heavy Load started the Stay Out Late campaign. And in the film, we began to sort of film you go around and see whether that was an issue for people, and it was. And then after that, it just mushroomed, which Paul
it was kind of there's a gig that's in the film where we play in this pub in a town called Seaford, where it was the first time we'd ever played to a an audience that wasn't like predominantly a disability arts audience, and we were nervous of the gig and how we'd go down because the pub was packed, and our music wasn't everyone's taste, but we just went for it, and it was a great gig. By the end, at the beginning of the set, their sort of mouths were open, and by the end of it, everybody's sort of clapping and dancing, and it was wild. And then, so afterwards, we were having a pint with Michael, our drummer, and chatting about what a great night it had been. And then his support worker came up and said, "Right, drink up, it's time to go home." And that was the sort of the moment that we snapped. Not there and then at the support worker, but we thought, right, we've got to do something about this, because it's affecting people who like coming to our gigs, but it's affecting our drummer. And I think it was the next day. There's a roundabout that was on the way to work. There's always car crashes and stuff. So there's always traffic jams at this roundabout, and I was stuck in this big traffic jam, thinking, what we're going to do about this. And then I had this sort of moment where I thought, we've got this film crew following us around, so if we made a campaign of it, they'd put it in the film, wouldn't they? So I got to work and phoned up Jerry, I think, said I've got an idea, and it all mushroomed, like Jerry says, from there, really. Because in a way we were just talking about stuff that is all government policy, and it was all sort of things people are calling for, but in a sense, in the way we called it "Stay Up Late," it hit a nerve. It's something that people really sort of connected with, I suppose.
The next question I've got for you, and it's for either of you guys. It ties in with the Stay Up Late campaign, and it's because we just on Friday we had the screening of One Movie Film Festival's Heavy Load docudrama that you made, and I was just thinking, the question is, in the Heavy Load documentary movie, there's a scene that really struck me, and it's when one of the chaps who has the learning difficulties, he desires like a new life in Newcastle, I think it was, and then there's another scene a few minutes later when he's having his little review, and the carers tell him no, he can't do that, and then a few minutes later there's another scene where one of the carers wants to go to start a new life, his family over in France. So I was just wondering, is there anything underway to change this so learning difficulty people can decide for themselves as much as the carers and mainstream people can, really?
Well, I've used that scene a lot in sort of talks to people and at conferences and stuff, and the amount of people that like senior people in social services and local authorities and stuff who are brought to tears by that scene. I think, like you say as well, Tom, it's like for Mick, he can just decide to move to France with his family, and that's easily done, isn't it? Michael asks for something and he's just told no. And I think what really upsets people is not obviously just seeing the impact on Michael, but they all know that sort of thing is happening a lot and has happened a lot, and people's dreams are dashed. So what we've done a couple of weeks ago, we've got this campaign going on at the moment called No Bedtimes, and we've written to every single director of social services in the country, asking them to not organise, not pay for contracts with support providers, but don't allow people to have flexible lives, and make sure they don't have bedtimes written into their contracts. And we're getting a really good response at the moment of councils saying, yeah, we're up for this, we want to talk about this. So it's kind of, hopefully things maybe starting to change.
Oh yeah, I can relate to that sort of thing happening, because occasionally some of the other organisations will hold discos, and I've got a lot of close friends with learning disabilities, and I've witnessed firsthand that carers want to just chop and change their hours and take them home early when the things barely started. So I've seen it firsthand, and it's just it just got me the cogs turning when I saw that scene about how the chap with the difficulties is bound by the rules, but the other guy can just up sticks and just once the money sorted out, and just okay,
absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
My question for Jerry or Paul: what's the ultimate game for what's the ultimate goal for heavy load?
What was the ultimate goal for heavy load? That's a good question, because we never started out with any goals. Jim just said, I want to be in a band, and all these crazy things happen, like Glastonbury, the documentary. We even got asked to write a theme tune for a Channel 4 drama series called Cast Offs. Did all these wild things. I don't know what the ultimate goal for maybe us playing Glastonbury was. Maybe. Well, that's the ultimate goal for me, probably. Being selfish. But we had such a great time doing all these things together. It's and obviously the band is no more now. So we stopped in 2012 after 15 years, and that gig itself was part of the Paralympics. So we were on this massive stage in Trafalgar Square, playing our loud, noisy punk rock to tourists.
And this is my last question for you guys now from the Heavy Load, and Dave's got one more after, and we move on to GigBuddies. But my last question for you guys is still related to the film. Another scene I remember, a bit more light-hearted, a bit more of the ambitious and more light-hearted scene was the chaps in the film wanted to let Kylie Minogue know about their success and experiences and escapades in the band of Heavy Load. And I'm just wondering, in real life, obviously it's real life. Off camera, did that ambition come to pass? Did Kylie get in touch with you?
Well, that was all thanks to Jerry and Al.
She sent a letter, didn't she? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I've got somewhere lying around here. I mean, it really should be like in a gold frame. But I think Michael kissed it, and I wasn't sure.
Yeah. She sent us a letter. I think her quote was, "I love what you've done," I think, or something like that.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
So she didn't say that she wasn't going to respond. You should be so lucky.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
Very courteous, I'm sure.
That was a nice moment for us. Yeah.
My last question for you guys, for Jeremy or Paul: what does the future hold for Heavy Load?
Well, I mean, like I say, the band is no more. We stopped after 15 years, but the film has just been an amazing thing. It just goes on, and still people are interested in it. I mean, do you still get interested in it, Jerry?
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, definitely. It's still a film that people kind of remember. It comes out like in Reason I Jump Q&As. It comes up quite a bit, which is nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And when I watched the film, there's just one or two things that date it. Not our fashion, but there's this one scene where everybody's in a pub smoking, and it just looks so strange. Yeah. I'm sure there's other things that date it. My hair was a lot darker in those days.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Anyway, thanks, guys. Anyway, we're going to move on now to the next phase of the interview, and this is going to be for the GigBuddies, which is fronted by Rachel. Are you right, Rachel? Okay, how are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit nervous now. Now that I've seen how grilling your questions are, I'm like, woo! I'm going to try my best to answer what I can.
So, anyway, well, there's no need to be nervous. You know me. Anyway, My first question for you, Rachel, regarding the GigBuddies side of things is, how did GigBuddies begin?
So, as Paul and Jerry mentioned about people having to go really early from gigs that they were enjoying, it's not because of the music. They definitely were enjoying it, because there's been feedback saying, from people, find out that people actually wanted to stay at these gigs. It's just the fact that stiff, support working rotas and stuff like that, and then housing wouldn't really allow for staying up late. I think Paul and his team of Stay Up Late campaigners decided on something to solve that problem, and GigBuddies was born. I hope I've done that justice, Paul. If you want to add to any of it, I'd be happy to. I have been to Brighton for the training as well, so I should know that story pretty well by now. And then GigBuddies was born. And what we do in GigBuddies, I'm GigBuddies Cymru, but there's GigBuddies all around now. Even in Sydney, we match a person with a learning disability and or autism up with a volunteer who have similar interests, and they do those interests together. So not, having to leave a venue really early because the person needs to leave, but that they actually want to go to this gig together, have an absolutely incredible time, and go home when they want to go home. How it should be. It's that simple.
Yeah, agree 100%. Yeah.
My question for Rachel and GigBuddies: does GigBuddies cover more than just going to gigs? Does include cinema, theatre, pubs, restaurants, and overnight stays?
Well, I think you and Tom can answer this because you're both GigBuddies participants. Do we cover more than gigs?
Yes, because I met up Rachel in person last week and we went for lunch in Wrexham. And yes, they do a lot of socials and they do a lot of quizzes. So yeah.
I think we're here to just empower people. David currently is looking for people to interview on his podcast. Tom's currently looking for somebody just to go and do stuff with. That's anything, isn't it, Tom? I mean, I know you don't mind me telling people actually, but it is just literally looking, looking for that friend to do stuff with, and that could be anything. So staying up late for a gig, or going to the cinema to watch a late night showing of a film, or even early in the morning, whenever you both want to go to it, you both being the participant volunteer, you guys can go to whatever you want to do. I've even been asked recently if we do paddleboarding and wild swimming. Someone's come up to me and said, I've got a farm of alpacas that I'm happy to share with anybody that loves alpacas, me being one of them, so I can't wait to go. You name it, people have suggested, and we'll try and make it happen whichever way we can.
Nice. Yeah, I think you've got the next question again, David, haven't you?
No, that's you.
Have I? Oh, let's have a look then for the moment. Of course, yeah. My next question is, would GigBuddies encourage a volunteering scheme for members to contribute to seeing things they want to see happening?
Yeah. Do you mean can volunteers be involved in the project anyway?
Yeah, I meant kind of members maybe just to help volunteer, just to contribute ideas with service.
Oh, for volunteer to. Sorry, Tom. Do you mean to encourage volunteers to come to the project, or do you mean to actively be involved in discussing what the volunteers should be doing?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, we encourage volunteers and participants to make up their own project, really, especially in GigBuddies Cymru North Wales, because we started during a lockdown. So if you were to come up and mention any ideas, and then we're literally open to anything at the moment because it's forming in ways we never expected to happen after lockdown. Mixing it up with Zooms and Teams meetings, and then meeting face to face. So anything people suggest at the moment, we try and make it happen. I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry. Yeah. Have you got the next question, David, or was it?
Yeah, I have. What does the future hold for GigBuddies?
To take over the world? Are we allowed to say that?
No.
In the last today, I've done calls with someone in Boston, someone in Ontario. Last week, it was Stockton-on-Tees, maybe not as sexy, and then also LA. You know, so you never. I do lots of these calls where nothing happens of it. But there's so much interest at the moment. You know, and they do, you know, pop up. We've just launched one in Bristol. Places like Dublin are really interested, you know, so who knows?
My final question for you, Rachel, now is as GigBuddies plays a big part in music and also for love of music, would the organisation ever consider forming a band of their own or maybe venturing into other creative outlets, like just making a documentary or a short film based on what they do?
We've got so many ideas like that. I think all the GigBuddy projects around have ideas like podcasts, TV shows, YouTube channels, films, documentaries, bands, radio, you know, actually hosting our own radio shows and be bigger than Radio 1. You name it, I think we've all got those ideas. We've got a dream board in GigBuddies Cymru that anybody that fires any ideas towards us that they want to see happen with the project, we put on the dream board, and we say nothing's impossible with GigBuddies. And I think that's so true. After seeing the Idols online gig recently, and then just amazing. I think it just shows that anything's possible, really, and I love it.
We had a team meeting the other week, and we were planning, because Stay Up Late as a charity is 10 years old this year, and we're saying what do we want to do to market, and the team there went, well, we want to make a pop video. So they want to form a band, write a song, and make a pop video. Yeah.
I'm sure it's quite inspiring, isn't it? Because obviously there's a heavy load film, and there's been Paralympics, and then there's GigBuddies itself, isn't it? And things like that. So it's, you know, so I suppose the world's the oyster. I mean, actually tonight I'm joining Electric Umbrella tonight because I just subscribed the other day. So that's another thing. You know.
Fantastic!
Yeah,
they're brilliant. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
They did a Stay Up Late takeover last week with Electric Umbrella, which is really good fun.
My final question to buddies: has GigBuddies ever encountered a situation where the two buddies didn't get on?
Well, yeah, we did have one case where the buddy, they were like similar age and everything, similar interests, similar backgrounds, everything. They looked like ideal match on paper, but the woman with a learning disability said she didn't really get on with her buddy, her volunteer, because they didn't dance enough. They got sacked for not dancing enough.
I can understand that, though. I can understand that.
If you want to go out dancing and you're somebody who's not dancing, you know, it's going to be a bit awkward, isn't it? Yeah. So
have any GigBuddies?
I'm pretty open-minded. Sorry, Tom.
I was going to say, I'm not sure because I think it's early days yet, but so far, have any GigBuddies that you've paired up not got on, or they been good with each other?
At the moment, in GigBuddies Cymru, it's been quite fresh, hasn't it? So we're just at the starting points. Yeah, it's just been the match meetings and then planning second meetings. But I mean, there's a famous one where, you know, Sophie again had a first GigBuddy, didn't she? And then she was like, do you know what? We're just not getting on together. And then she met Ernie Sparkles, didn't she? That's the famous one from GigBuddies Cymru. And like, look at them now. I mean, wow.
Best of friends.
Yeah, an inspirational match. So it's just, that we're open to, you know, if the match doesn't go well, you're not feeling, you know, it. It's okay to say, do you know what? This person isn't dancing enough. And we'll just say, that's understandable. And then you can find another buddy. It's not like a set in stone thing. We're very relaxed.
That'd be me with if there's no one that's interested in my podcast. Bye. See you later.
Are you interested in my podcast? Have you seen all my YouTube videos? All 100 of them.
It's more than that.
Ugh.
On YouTube,
Maybe you could watch them together, David, with your match.
No, not in my house.
I
Screen
think
them.
that's all the questions we've got for all of you tonight. So I just want to say thanks to Jerry and to Paul and to Rachel. There is before we go, there is actually a question that's just come up here from the Facebook, and it's from
Jerry, for any of your
from the Low. Do you want to say it, Dave?
Jerry, for any of the inspiring documentary makers, can you give us a couple of bits of advice?
Oh, I think the first thing is just don't ask permission. Sorry, you always ask permission of who you're filming, but don't ask permission to make a film. Go, get up and use whatever you have to hand, whether it's like a phone or a borrowed camera. But I think just get making stuff, because the best way to teach yourself is through doing it. I think with filmmaking, as well as maybe watching a lot of stuff. So that'd be the main thing. And keep it as short as it needs to be.
I think that was the only question that came in that I seen.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Oh, there's another one, Tom, if you want to read that.
There's another one, yes. So it's another kind of, again, it's from Rhiannon Lowe. And just to say that Rhiannon's intake with us. She works on Tuesdays with us and on the Media Club. Anyway,
the
her next
GigBuddy.
question for you. Oh, GigBuddies, of course, yeah. She came.
She's a part of GigBuddies company as well.
Oh,
we forgot about that.
Yeah, she gave you a list, so I should remember that. Right. Anyway, her next question is for Jerry again. It's which is your favourite documentary that you've made and why?
Oh, that's a leading question, isn't it? I don't know. It's very hard to have favourites, because each time you make a film, it's always a kind of really sort of deep and magical experience, and they're all different, a bit like your children. So it'd be like saying which is your favourite child. There's a couple that I'm less keen on, but they're not. It's not Heavy Load. That's one of my favourites. So I don't think I've got a favourite. Unless it's the last one. I think the last one's probably the best one. I think in terms of like filmmaking. The reason I probably I've pushed myself a bit further. I've enjoyed doing them all. It's been an amazing thing to do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, just need to double check and Ree, have you got any more questions out there before I wrap up? Always wrap up before then the questions.
Smashing questions, though. Really good questions.
Yeah.
This is really good.
Anyway. Like I say, that's probably all the questions we've got for all of you tonight. So I just want to thank Rachel, Paul, and Jerry for coming along. And just stay tuned for the next One Movie Film Festival, which not to put too fine a point onto it, but it's not set in stone yet. But I think it's The Reason I Jump is the next one. But we'll have more details nearer the time. And anyway, so this is. Myself, Tom Spencer, and Dave Wilberforce, and we're just going to say for the One Movie Film Festival, thanks for coming, and see you next time. Because the One Movie Film Festival, one movie speaks 1,000 words. All right, good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Tom and Dave.
Thanks for having us.